Hi, everybody. I haven't admitted them yet. Sorry.
Look for the end of the end.
Hi, everyone. Just letting everybody in. Love it when the screens are on. Yep, everyone's coming in now. Yep, somebody. Yep, excellent. Just mute. All right. Right on time. So let's get started. Welcome everybody to our Lunch and Learn webinar. One of many during the year. We're pumping them out thick and fast now, but I hope you're all getting lots out of it, sharing the recordings with your teams as well. Today, 3 highlights today. One is it's a Women in Franchising event, which is excellent. Number 2 is our host is Geotech Information Services. And number 3, we're going to hear from Vanessa Wilmot, who's the MD of Geotech and our chairperson in Women in Franchising. So without further ado, over to Vanessa.
Thank you so much, Helen. So today's topic is leveraging data analytics in the current economic environment. Really excited to be here and take you through this today. So just as Helen mentioned, I'm Vanessa Wilmot. I'm the Managing Director of Geotech Information Services. So at Geotech, we're all about helping franchise systems with their growth strategies, whether that's network planning, network optimization, using data and mapping and analytics. I'm also the chairperson and a committee member for the FCA's Women in Franchising in Australia. In terms of what we're going to go through today, so what we're going to do is we're going to go through challenges in the current environment when we're talking to different franchise brands that they're currently facing, a little bit about how franchise systems are using data and analytics, some of the more innovative data sets that franchise systems are using. Then we might pause then for some questions. And then we'll follow that by some exciting women in franchising developments and events that we have coming up over the year. So just getting into it. So in terms of the challenges in the current environment for a lot of franchise systems, what we've found is there's been a lot of really turbulent economic times since COVID-19. So we're really seeing different things have happened over the last few years. So coming out of COVID, a lot of households were really cashed up, had money to spend, coming out of those lockdowns and that sort of thing. But since then, there's been a lot of, turbulent economic times, and a lot of franchise systems have really started to struggle in some environments with the cost of living pressures, interest rate increases and that sort of thing. So we're seeing a lot of differences in performance across different franchise brands and within franchise brands as well. So all the different brands that we talk to, it's really been a turbulent time, and it's swung, from one way to another. And it does, of course, differ by brand and industry. So some industries have really grown, others haven't so much, and that sort of thing as well. But I guess the key there is a lot of the talk is around it being very turbulent. The cost of living crisis, cost of living pressures, this is having a real impact on both B2B as well as B2C franchise systems as well. Hopefully with the interest rate cuts, and I think there's another one that's hopefully going to be announced in the near future, hopefully some of that will start to ease, not only from a personal perspective, but from a business perspective as well. We're seeing a lot in terms of changing consumer behaviour. So since COVID and because of the cost of living pressures and that sort of thing, a lot of consumers are actually becoming less likely to try new things. So what we found is as a result of COVID, a lot of consumers became more affiliated with brands that they knew and they trusted. And so they became a lot more brand loyal. So a lot of people now are more brand loyal, but are actually spending less. So maybe instead of going out a couple of times a week, they might go out, once a fortnight. Instead of getting something fixed up around the house. They might try and do it themselves or wait till there's a few things or it gets a bit more extreme before engaging those services. So what we are finding is there has been that changing of consumer behaviour as well. Another one that's quite topical at the moment is international conflict and other international issues. So a lot of that is stemming out of America in terms of the different things that are happening there. But the international conflict and the war in Gaza has actually had a bit of an impact on some franchise systems, particularly those that have more American affiliations as well. And we are seeing that for some brands, it's had an impact negatively of up to sort of 20, 30%. It's not something that's being talked about a lot, but in a lot of those areas across Australia where the franchise systems are located that are on one side or the other of those international conflicts, we are seeing an impact there. The levels of growth seen by a lot of franchise brands has slowed as well. Again, this really differs by brand and industry. So we did see, in particular, coming out of COVID, industries such as home services and QSR, quick service restaurants, really grew very strongly as a result of coming out of COVID. People were in their homes a lot more than ever before, so people were doing things more around their house. Things like delivery, and a special treat was going out to the local QSR when not much else was open during the lockdowns. But what we're seeing now is the last sort of 12 months, due to the economic times and the cost of living pressures, the levels of growth for a lot of brands has really slowed. So it's interesting talking to a lot of different franchise brands. It's very different by brand and industry. But I guess the good news there is we've probably been through hopefully the worst of it, and hopefully there is light at the end of the tunnel. There's obviously still some franchise brands too that are still prospering and growing and doing great things. But I guess the key point there is the growth has been quite inconsistent. We're also seeing growth of new stores or new territories that is slower as well. So for a lot of brands, when they first started operating with a new territory, if it was a service-based brand or a store location brand, when they opened, things might go off to a bang depending on what marketing they put around that. But what we're seeing is that the growth of new stores and new territories is now slower than we've ever seen in my whole 20, 25 years in this space. A lot of greenfield sites or greenfield territories are now, for a lot of brands, taking longer to ramp up to potential than what we've ever seen before in the past. So there is a lot of differences that are happening there. Something that's very topical at the moment, and I bet it's a hot topic here at the FCA, the changes to the franchising code of conduct. So that presents a challenge in itself as well, especially the main one that we've been involved in a lot of discussions at Geotech. And I think I've heard a lot of breakfasts, FCA breakfasts and things like that. One of the main ones that's been discussed is now in the franchise agreements, they must now provide a reasonable opportunity for a return on a franchisee's investment or ROI. So that's a challenge in itself and something that we're hearing about from a lot of our clients as well. What we're finding in the current environment too is that a lot of franchise brands are turning towards network optimization as much as, if not more than, store or territory growth. So obviously, a lot of brands, especially brands with a smaller network, one strategy for growth is in terms of either opening more stores or allocating additional territories and growing that way. The other way for growth is reassessing your existing network and making sure that all your stores and territories are right to really see, if you're optimizing the network as much as possible. So we are finding that for a lot of brands, even just looking at their existing network, whether it's stores or territories, there's as much to be gained in doing that, if not as much as or more than organic growth through new greenfield sites or territories. So the next topic we're going to touch on is how franchise systems are using data and analytics. So a little bit of disclosure here is I'm a statistician by background, and this is something I could talk about all day. I'm aware that we've only got a limited time frame, so I've really narrowed it down to a few of the really key things that a lot of franchise systems are using data and analytics for in today's environment. But there's obviously endless possibilities for data and analytics, and I'm sure a lot of you are using a lot of different things in your systems as well. One of the biggest ones at the moment, because of the turbulent times that we've been in, and as I mentioned before, it's going to be different by brand and industry, but a lot of brands at the moment are looking at sales change over time of their stores or territories. So what we've seen is that changes have been inconsistent for many franchise brands. An example that's just popped up, so the bars in orange or below the line are stores or territories A, B, C and D. And what the ones below the line are ones that have experienced declines in their revenue or sales over the last year or two. And the ones popping up in teal, so store or territory E, F, G and H, they're the ones that have gone up in sales or revenue over the last year or two. So this is actually a de-identified actual example of what has happened in a franchise brands network. If you just looked at this at an overall level, it would probably come out at about 1% growth. So the brand might think, okay, well, we're stagnating or we're having minimal growth. But where the real insights can be gained is looking at, okay, well, what's happening on a store or territory basis? And by understanding the changes that have occurred in your network on a store or territory basis, it can actually uncover really great insights as well. For this particular example, what we actually found was that the ones that had experienced the most growth were in moderate to high socioeconomic areas, whereas the ones that experienced the biggest sales declines were in low socioeconomic areas. So what they could do then is use those insights from the data and analytics to then maybe look at repositioning pricing of their offering in those lower socioeconomic areas to sort of account for that as well. So I guess the key takeout here is really understanding, not just at a top line level, but really drilling down into what's happening at a store or territory level, and then trying to use data and analytics to understand why that might be happening as well, so you can take action. As I mentioned before, a lot of sales for a lot of brands has been really slow in new growth and low socioeconomic areas in particular. These are the types of areas that have felt the cost of living pressures the most. And so if you're opening a new store or allocating a new territory in those new growth, low socioeconomic areas, for a lot of brands, it is taking time to ramp up to full potential. So it's really one way that a lot of brands are using data analytics in those situations is really keeping an eye on or tracking how the sales are going in those areas as well, because they are taking a lot longer than has ever been seen in the past for a lot of brands. Reassessing current site and territory networks. So reviewing all of your network and just sort of seeing where all the different sites sit or how your territories all sit as well. So part of that is undertaking a network optimization or actual versus predicted sales analysis. So that's something that can be done where you can look at, what a territory or store is actually performing in sales or revenue, and then looking at what that store or territory should be capable of, so predicted sales analysis as well. Take into consideration all the things that could be important for sales, like population growth, different residential demographics, working populations, if you're a B2B, and that sort of thing as well. By undertaking a process like that, you can then start to identify who your major overperformers are in your network. So they're the ones that are circled in sort of the bluey teal colour there on the screen. And perhaps those overperformers are doing something that's different to the rest of the network, so learning from them. So you might have a fantastic franchisee or operator of that store or territory. Maybe they're doing a lot of marketing. Maybe they're opening different hours if they're a store location. So really trying to understand what's making them overperform. And then on the flip side is looking at who your major underperformers are as well. quite often, just because a store or territory is performing high in revenue, they sometimes will get overlooked, but a lot of the because they're performing well, but sometimes they might not actually be performing as well as they should be. So really looking at if you've got any underperformers in the network against potential, so then you can work out ways to come up with, how do you bring them up to potential? Maybe it's something to do with the operator or the franchisee. Maybe it's even something to do with, they've got this fantastic signage out the front if it's a store, but it's being blocked by other signs from other companies or blocked by trees, and you can't see it coming up the road and that sort of thing. So really trying to put actions around why something's underperforming and how you can increase that. So a lot of franchise brands that we work with, when they've undertaken this, they've actually found, they've been able to quantify the actions that they've been able to undertake in doing this sort of exercise as well. Another way is looking at things like sales prediction modelling. So this can be done sort of internally for external parties, through AI, all sorts of things. So for any new store or territories. This type of thing is a question that we're getting asked a lot at the moment with the changes to the franchising code of conduct. It's always been something that a lot of franchise systems has put a lot of emphasis on because of showing due diligence in general, but it's going to be even more important now with the changes to the franchising code of conduct to help provide that top line revenue estimate to help plug into the equation of assessing ROI for a lot of franchise brands as well. There's a lot of different data out there, and as I mentioned before, I could talk about data and analysis all day. So I've tried again just to narrow it down to a few of the really key data sets that a lot of franchise systems that are using, or the more innovative data sets as well that can do some really cool things. So a lot of franchise systems have begun to use different data sets. There's been a lot around AI too, to assist them with things like their network planning, their network optimization. Some of the more innovative data sets being used, and I've got a slide on each coming up after this to give you a little bit of a view on it, is the first one is mobile device data. So this has been around for a long time, but it became even more obvious, I think, during the COVID lockdowns when people realised, they're being trapped using their mobile data and the pings from their mobile locations. So it's all personalised, it's all de-identified, but it can do some really great things in terms of tracking consumer travel patterns and movements, looking at things like catchment territory sizing, all sorts of wonderful things. There's also MasterCard activity data. So this innovative data set helps track retail precinct performance and levels of activity. So in the past, the MasterCard data, or there used to only really be data available for shopping centre precincts if you do have a retail outlet offering or a shopfront offering. But now it's actually, this MasterCard data is available for any type of retail precinct, whether it's a homemaker, shopping centre, shopping strip, CBD, which unlocks all this extra information that previously wasn't available. And more sophisticated heat mapping and supply versus demand mapping as well. So I've just brought up a couple of little pictures there just to give you a pictorial view on what some of these data sets look like and what kinds of things it could help you with in your franchise network. So the mobile device tracking, so there's a lot of different ways that this can be used. There's a lot of innovative ways that this can be used, but some of the more common ones that we're finding with franchise systems is looking at where people are coming and going from after they've been in a certain area or visiting a certain location. So the picture that's come up on the left is the customer home device location. So where that device location is after visiting a certain store or area at night. So that's the one with the orange dots on it. So the orange dots is like a mobile device location and its home location. So you can start to see a bit of a picture on where people are coming from and going to after they've been at certain locations. So this can really help determine things like store catchments or territory sizing. The one on the right, you can see there's a lot more on that. It's the device location 20 minutes before or after visiting a location as an example, but this can be based on anything. But you can see for this particular example that where all the teal is in highest colouring, that's where people are coming from and going to after visiting that particular spot. So you can see here that this location is quite localised, but it's also very transient. So you can see, you know, those teal dots following all the different lines and that sort of thing as well. So it can be used for so many different things, but some of the more common ones are looking at things like store catchments, territory sizing, also looking at how local or transient your offering is as well. Another really cool way of looking at it is more broadly. So the picture that's come up on the right, the mobile device activity more broadly, is heat mapping out where activity, this can be vehicle and or pedestrian activity. So any type of activity is strongest to weakest. So the one on the right where the red is where there's the hottest spots or where there is the highest level of activity. It can get even more granular. So the one on the left is then zooming in on a particular precinct. So this particular one that's come up is actually Westfield Penrith. And it can actually show you where inside Westfield Penrith, or at a more localised level, where activity is strong to weakest. This one's quite interesting. This is at an overall level, but it can actually be replicated throughout different day parts as well. So, for example, if this could be sectioned off to look at, you know, evening activity, if you were have an evening offering, so then you might, you know, want to put your offer around the cinemas or where the evening activity is strongest. If you're more of a coffee offer or lunchtime offer, you would want to sort of look at this during those day parts as well. So there's a lot of different things that can be done with this data. Then the MasterCard merchant activity data. So as I mentioned before, getting information about shopping centres used to be relatively easy, a little bit more difficult for CBD, homemaker and shopping strip precincts. So what this data can tell you is where activity is highest to lowest across 5,000 retail precincts in Australia and across all different precinct types. Some of the newer data that's just been released or come out of this as well is this can now also be looked at by category. So getting a feel for what types of tenancies or what category spend is highest to lowest in those different retail precincts as well. So the little charts that have just come up on the screen there. So this one is this particular precinct that it's clicked on is skewed towards apparel and homemaker activity. So that might be great for a fashion brand, for example, whereas it's very low on eating places. So it might not be so great for a QSR or more of an eating offering. There's also a little chart that's come up that shows when the precinct is most busy to least busy. So running across the bottom is time of the day, so from midnight to midday to the early hours of the evening and that sort of thing, and Monday through to Sunday. So in this particular example, it skews mostly towards Thursday lunchtime and evening, so you can see where the hotspots are throughout the different day parts as well, so you can see how that fits in with your brand. Some more innovative data sets or some more sophisticated supply versus demand mapping as well. So looking at things where demand is strong. So this could be B2C or B2B. So the one on the left is where there's the highest proportions of your key target market are located. So this can help with, so this could be based on residential demographics, or it could be types of businesses if you're a B2B offering where there's higher concentrations of certain types of businesses. And then if you're a location-based business, also you can map out things like competitors and things like where there's new population growth occurring as well. So you can see where, if you're a territory-based business, you can see where the demand might be in the future. The one on the right is an interesting one for industry demand. So if you do have an offering that does delivery, it's also understanding the potential not only for in-store, in-person, but where delivery demand is also strong as well. And it can be quite different for industry demand, delivery demand versus residential or B2C demand, B2B demand. So I just wanted to pull up a few thought provokers next. So I guess some of these things then are, well, you thinking about what data and analytics are you leveraging for your franchise system, whether you're doing something internally or not, or you're using, supplier partners and that sort of thing. How have you adapted to the current economic environment? As I mentioned before, it has been very challenging for a lot of brands. Some brands have gone gangbusters, others have found it very difficult time. So no matter which way it's gone for you, how have you adapted to that? How is your network performing compared to the past, and what changes have occurred? And whether you can use data and analytics to gain a greater understanding of those changes and why they may have occurred, so that you can then look at what action can be taken. Has the performance of your network slowed? If it has, then this is not uncommon in today's environment. And if it has, though, do you understand why? And by understanding why, is there some actions that you can implement? How are international, national, and also more localised issues impacting on your franchise network? With the changing consumer behaviour, both B2C as well as B2B, what are you doing to adapt? And with the changes to the franchising code of conduct as well, what data and analytics are you using to show due diligence, which is now more important than ever before? So that's a bit of a quick sort of overview on how some franchising systems are using data and analytics in today's environment. I'm not sure if we want to pause for questions before we get into the women and franchising.
We have got one typed question.
Mm-hmm.
Let me read it. Okay. So, how do you factor in environmental risk, zoning laws, or community impact when selecting sites?
How do you factor in environmental risk, zoning laws, or community impact when selecting sites? So, yeah, that's an interesting question. Unfortunately, it's not something that I personally at Geotech get involved in that much, but I guess from the community impact point of view, it's about understanding what is in the community, what is already there, what tenancies are there, what the offering already is, to make sure that your offering then, is in line with that community impact as well.
Are ESG metrics considered in your assessments?
So ESG, with the work that we do at Geotech, not from our perspective, so that's an overlay that a lot of our franchise clients are doing more internally themselves as well.
And do you layer in psychographic data, like lifestyle preferences, values, or media consumption?
Yeah, that can definitely be an overlay as well, so the psychographic data. So a lot of the time, a lot of the things like the different census sort of information and using things like the mobile device data, you can make some inferences about psychographics as well. So that can definitely be overlaid. And with a lot of the work that we do as well, if a franchise system has access to more psychographic information, we can definitely include those overlays in there as well. So
good question. Questions, Jason? Thank you. Any other questions? You can take yourself off mute and ask the question, or do a little bit of typing.
Hi, can you hear me? Hi. Hello. Hi. Yeah, thank you so much. It's been really informative. I do have a question. When you were giving the example before about the brand that was looking at socioeconomic data and gave the example of lower socioeconomic areas performing poorly or less than say the mid to high. I'm interested to understand, how do you classify what is low or mid or high socioeconomic areas? Like, is it simply a numbers selected based on, say, an income or an average income? Like, is there a certain classification that you would apply to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's all the different income bands that are available. So it's looking at sort of like what proportions fall within the different sort of income bands. So as a general sort of rule of thumb, it would be something like, I think it's something like less than about 50,000 income year, would be sort of starting to look at low or less than 42,000 because there's certain cutoffs with the census would be low. Getting to the high would be sort of households earning sort of something like 204,000 per annum, but then that's only a very small proportion. But we tend to look at it maybe across all the different income bands and sometimes group it up into sort of like 5 groupings as well. So they're probably the extremes, less than 42 and greater than 204 are the extremes. Median would be something like around that 80 to 100,000 per annum would be sort of somewhere around the middle range.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Thanks, Carla. We have another question here. Much of the data analytics, retail and food focused, is there service-based?
Yeah, absolutely. So all of that data and information can be used for service-based businesses as well, and depending on what the service offering is, if you've got like a territory, for example, with boundaries, you can extract out data within that territory the same as you would for a store. And you can also do analysis on territories as well. So what is the potential within the territory, and what should that territory be capable of achieving? So pretty much all exactly the same sort of data and analysis that applies to a retail client could be applied to a service-based industry.
And mobile services?
Yeah, and mobile services too. So yeah, because even things like, especially service-based business, something that a lot of clients do is if they've got their own customer data. So with a service-based business, normally sometimes you might have customer addresses, depending on what the service is, if you're going to their home or their place of work. So you can actually map that out, so you can see where people are, located, and look at the demographics of them based on, who your customers are for a service-based business as well.
Very cool. Yeah. Good question, Rose. This was fabulous. Two people talking amongst themselves, so that's fine. Okay, that's not a question. No, it's just a statement. If there's no more questions, we'll move on to women in franchising developments.
Excellent. So something that I thought would be a great opportunity to announce, as this is fairly new, is that Women in Franchising is now recognised as a national committee of the FCA.
Okay.
So I guess just want to take this opportunity to thank Lisa, Helen and Jay especially, and the FCA team, because this is something we were previously a special interest group as part of the FCA, but now being a national committee. So thank you all so much. I think that's fantastic.
You're welcome.
Finally. It's been in the making. So just to give you some of you who may not know about women in franchising. So what our vision is, it's to support, promote and celebrate the success of women, both within the franchise sector as well as the broader Australian business community. So we do try to provide genuine opportunities and initiatives to celebrate women, networking, professional development and all that sort of thing as well. So part of this is running women in franchising events, and what we just wanted to mention to you as well before we get into some of the events that are coming up is that everyone is welcome to those events. We quite often get asked by men, are men allowed to come? And we just wanted to put it out there that yes, everyone is welcome, because it's about supporting women in franchising. You don't necessarily have to identify as a woman. It's about everybody celebrating and supporting women in franchising. So everyone is welcome. So another announcement. So August is going to be Women in Franchising Event Month. So we're going to be bringing women in franchising across all the different state markets, which is really exciting. And the theme is the power of women in franchising. So we're just going to let you know about those events that are coming up. So I think the details will be up on the FCA website for some of these later this week. But just to give you a little bit of a sneak peek, So the first one coming up is Friday, the 8th of August in New South Wales in Sydney. There'll be an event. It's probably most likely going to be an afternoon event. So at the moment, save the date and there'll be more details to follow on that one. Then we'll be moving to sunny Queensland in Brisbane, Friday the 15th of August. There's going to be an afternoon tea event. The topic for this one is strong, smart and still standing, real talk with women who've thrived in franchising. From imposter syndrome to inner strength, navigating the juggle of business, womanhood and wellbeing. And it's going to be facilitated by Sharon Jerd. Then we have Victoria locked in for Thursday, the 21st of August. This is a breakfast event from 7:30 till 9:30 at the Amora Hotel Riverwalk in Richmond. So the topic for this event is leading with passion and a people-first approach, enabling global growth. For this event, there will be keynote speaker Selena Bridge, CEO of KX Pilates, who'll be sharing her story, followed by a panel discussion to unpack further the people-first leadership style and how to successfully navigate strategic global growth. This event's also going to be in support of Lifeline Australia. Then moving on to South Australia. So there's going to be an event in Adelaide on Friday, the 22nd of August. It's save the date at the moment, so more details. So stay tuned on that one. And finally, Western Australia will be on Friday, the 29th of August. Again, this is a save the date as well for now, but yeah, more details will be following on that one too.
Yay.
Mhm.
And we also just wanted to mention too about the FIA, the Franchise Industry Awards that are coming up on the 25th of June at the Fullerton in Sydney. So it's going to be a great night and a great event.
Yep.
And there's going to be a Franchise Women of the Year award as part of that event as well. So it's going to be fantastic. And there's going to also be the Franchise Forum that runs throughout the day. And I do hear on the grapevine there's going to be a great representation of women leaders as part of that event as well, which is great news.
There is.
So if you haven't registered already, so that's been up and running for a while, so make sure you get your tickets for that as well.
Amazing. Great job.
Excellent.
And that's it.
And thank you to Geotech for being one of the award sponsors.
Yes,
Thank
amazing.
you. Proud to be. Proud to support.
Good job.
All right. Well, unless anyone's got any pertinent questions, I think that was a lot of information.
Great job.
But you can always get in contact with Vanessa. Either go to Geotech's website or when I send the recording, all her details will be on there as well. So thank you, everybody, for listening today and being part of it. Yes, thank you. Thank yous.
Thanks, everybody.
And next Lunch and Learn is coming up. So we are going to do a series of a few webinars coming up for World Franchising Day. So World Franchising Day is the 11th of June, and the reason why I remember that is it's my birthday. There you go. And so Alpha Consulting, which is LJ, one of our media part of our team, media team, she is going to be giving us just extra information here and there of how you and your businesses can celebrate World Franchising Day and what we can do to all come together. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Vanessa.
Thank you very much.
And
Thanks,
thank you,
everyone.
team.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
See you next
Bye.
time. Bye.